Good afternoon. Today we mourn the loss of two New Haven City residents. And as well, we hope for a quick and thorough recovery of the other victims of this fire. Likewise, the four firefighters who were injured remind us of the heroic efforts these public safety experts bring to their job every single day. I wish for them a quick and complete recovery from their injuries. Quite honestly, every one of the dozens of firefighters who responded to this fire is a hero. We owe them a debt of gratitude for their timely response, their willingness to go into a hot, zero visibility environment looking for missing residents. Thank goodness that we have the New Haven Fire Department. It is, we believe, the best fire department in the state. If it were not for them, there would have been a worse outcome of this fire. The incident remains under investigation. The State Fire Marshal's Office is assisting the New Haven Fire Department, our Fire Marshal's Office, our police department, and other city departments. And for more about this investigation and where we stand now, I invite Chief John Alston to come forward.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon. First of all, our hearts go out to the families of the victims that were lost at the incident yesterday at 150 West Street. Our concerns go out to them during this investigative process. We know that it is a trying time for them while they grieve and while we begin the process of collecting the facts and giving information and collecting interviews. So we want to say to them and their neighbors that we have them in our hearts and minds. To the other residents of 150 West who are recovering, both from trauma and from physical injury, we wish them a speedy recovery, and we provide as much assistance to them both through the mayor's office and through the Red Cross as much as we can. Yesterday at 3:19 in the morning at 150 West Street, a call was received in the public safety access point. It was a male reporting that there was a fire or smoke in his building. He was on the phone with the dispatcher while the dispatcher routed the call. The call was dispatched at 3:20. It was received by the houses, and the first units arrived at 3:24. On arrival, they reported a heavy fire condition on the second floor of a 2.5-story Class 5, which is a wood structured building. Initial operations were to knock down the fire as quickly as possible. While on the scene, they noticed that there were victims laying outside of the building and continuing to jump out of the building on arrival. So they had to make the decision to assist those residents that were jumping. Lines were in place. It is our understanding through this part of the investigation that there were still 2 adult males remaining on the 3rd level of this building that were cut off by the fire until the firefighters could put the fire out. Once the fire was darkened down, searches were made on the 3rd level and those victims were removed. They were resuscitation efforts made at the scene, physical and medical assessments done, and they were rushed to Yale Emergency Medical. I want to say to the firefighters that were injured, 4 were injured, a variety of injuries which ranged from heat exhaustion, physical exhaustion, and dehydration, a back strain, and also a dislocated shoulder. Those were the initial firefighters that were removing the adult male victims. At this time, we will not be identifying the victims. They are in the hands of the state medical examiner, who will provide positive identification and release that information. It is still an ongoing, active investigative site. There is heavy damage to the building. All city agencies that are responsible for this type of response have been at the building. We will continue to investigate both the use of the building and also our responses. We welcome the State Fire Marshal's Office, who is assisting us not only in the investigation, but they're also providing oversight into our responses. I'd like to give the fire marshal's office an opportunity to respond, and then we will take any questions that you may have available for us.
Can you say your name and your work, please?
Sure, it's Robert Doyle, Fire Marshal for the City of New Haven. As Chief was stating here, this is going to be a collaborative effort between local and state authorities. We've been at the scene since yesterday morning, just after the fire started. Our job is to determine the origin and cause of this fire, and once we make that determination, we could take the course of action to correct it. It's very hard, it's very challenging. I know everybody's looking for information. We're looking to get that information too, but just as important as getting that information is getting the proper information. The people in that building deserve to have the fire investigation the best that they possibly can, and we're looking to definitely do that. But it's going to take a lot of time. There's a lot of pieces of the puzzle to put together. That's why everybody here is in a collaborative effort, working very well together to get all those pieces of the puzzle to have a final determination of the origin and cause of this fire. But I ask everybody for the patience. I know you're looking for the information also. We're trying to get all that information too, but it's going to take some time.
Thank you. At this time, we'll take any questions that you may have.
Chief or Fire Marshal, can any of you speak to, we heard from an older woman, other bystanders on the scene about smoke detectors. Anything definitive that either gentleman you can say at this point? Were there smoke detectors, fire alarms in that structure, and were they working?
The answer is yes, that there are smoke alarms present in the building and throughout the structure, but as part of the investigation, whether they were effective or not working, that still remains under investigation.
Chief, how many exits were there from the building?
There are 2 exits from the building.
Chief, how about the interior of the building? We heard from some folks saying it was described as a rooming house. Some folks were saying that there were multiple rooms inside.
There are a lot of erroneous reports. We do have reports that it might have been an illegal rooming house. Again, it is under investigation. Realizing it just happened yesterday, when we pulled all the departments together, the building was listed as its original use, which was a 2-family. And then it becomes how the law is determined, whether those people have anything in common or not in common. But that's still part of the investigation. Thank you.
Are the 2 exits, does that make it a legal exit from the building rules, or should there have been more? I mean, could everyone in all those 3 floors actually get out?
Based on its current use, those are adequate exits. But again, we still have to investigate what the actual purpose and use of the building was.
Right, current use, if it was a 2-family house and being used as a 2-family as opposed to multiple people.
Correct. That's still a matter of investigation, yeah. What you have to realize too is that when we pull up on the scene and we're pulling people out of a building, many of those folks cannot communicate with us. So by the time we get them to the hospital, there's a lot of information that we would love to have initially that we just do not have. There are still people in the hospital that are recovering as well. And if you are inside of a building like that and a fire starts, depending on where you are in the building, that's what you report that you see. It may not be the total picture. So we're piecing all of that together based on our interviews and investigation.
Has anyone had any contact with the owner of this property? I believe it's someone out of the state. Has police, fire, anyone been in contact with the owner?
I'm still going to allow that to stay under investigation at this time.
Were there 2 exits from this 3rd floor?
No, there was not. Just one.
So the people that perished, so they were on the 3rd floor?
Yes,
And you said it was 2 men, but their identities are still not being.
that's correct. We'll allow the medical examiner to do that as well. There were a total of 5 people on the 3rd floor. 3 were able to escape. We can say that one of the victims that was on the 3rd floor exercised some extreme heroism under extreme conditions. He warned people, banged on doors, and advised them to get out. And we appreciate his efforts. He saved some lives yesterday.
We've been told there is a listing, obviously, on the city clerk's office of who the owner is, but some people are saying that that particular gentleman listed there is not no longer an owner. Is that?
Okay. We do know that the property has changed hands recently, but again, that's part of the investigation.
So it may not be listed on the city clerk's office.
I can't confirm or deny at this time. What you must understand as well, our fire department is going through a rough time. This evening, we're going to have the wake of one of our deceased members, and we're also going to be having the funeral for him tomorrow. So in the process of responding to a multiple alarm fire with multiple fatalities, we're in the business of saving lives, not losing them. So it has impacted the department a great deal.
Chief, is there concern in that neighborhood or other parts of the city that you do have these crowded, occupied houses? I don't know if the mayor was going to say about this, but, you know, I was out talking to someone in the neighborhood, they said, look, that there's a housing crisis, that affordability, have people living together. I mean, is there a concern that these overcrowded homes could present a danger to your man in the future?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So when you have overcrowding, and it could be economic, it could be due to tragedies other places in the world that we have people come into the community. It can also be a large family, which has happened. Again, you can still have overcrowding in any type of structure. But if it's listed as a two-family, it doesn't fall under some of the guidelines that we would normally inspect. And so until our units get out and inspect, or through other responses, whether it be medical, whether it be just district familiarization, or if we enlist the services of the public, if you know of these types of conditions, it's most important that you participate with us and inform us on that so that we can get in, inspect, and make sure that these areas are safe for everyone.
Do you have any IDs of all the people on this?
Yes, we do, for the most part, but again, we'll leave that to the investigative process.
Chief, is there someone at this point that remains in critical condition in the hospital?
Yes, there is.
One individual?
Currently, yes.
Do you know if in fact the property was investigated as part of, you know, rental, the regular rental inspection that the city does? Or did that not happen because, like you just said?
I'll save that for the investigative process. So when something like this happens, when there's a fatal fire, and it's in any jurisdiction, all of the departments that would have some type of oversight or some agency responsibility come together, and they begin the process of reviewing their records for the past year, maybe 2 years or 3 years. And then we compile that information, and then part of that information becomes the basis of the investigation, and now you have to interview those persons that are inside the building. Again, we would leave that to the investigative process.
Chief, the third, this person that we're talking about who's in critical condition, was this one of the people who jumped from the building?
That's correct. If there's nothing else, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'll take 2 more because we really do have a wake to get to, yes.
And again, the way you described it, I should know this, but if it's a legitimate two-family, does that fall under the residential inspection protocols, or is it multi?
Again, it depends on the use. So what triggers the inspection type, the licensing, and registration depends on the use.
Chief, can you talk with Chief Redis for a minute?
Absolutely. Thank you so very much. You're welcome. Thank you, Mayor.
Best wishes to you and the department.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate that.
Chief Reyes, can you talk about any potential criminal element that you're looking into with regard to this investigation?
Well, we are doing a joint investigation along with the state police. And so at this point, there is nothing indicating that it will be. But if it turns up that there's a criminal investigation or that there are criminal charges pending, then we will forward that to the state police.
Thank you.